All right, hello everybody. Hopefully I can get through this video fairly efficiently, this lesson fairly efficiently. A lot of really cool videos of demonstrations. I'm hoping my transition between slides won't be too fumbly. All right, so the lesson is about natural frequencies and resonance. So we'll learn what that is and see a bunch of examples of it. The assignment's at the top as usual. This is like an opening question I could do. This is a pretty long video maybe, so I might leave this one. If you have a question about this, just send a screenshot of it to the post help questions for help thing, and I'll help it. I'll go through it then, but otherwise this is just a repeat of the previous lesson to do with the frequency and period equations. So here we go. Natural frequencies and resonance. So natural frequencies, what does that even mean? The frequency that an object or system kind of easily vibrates at, tends to vibrate at, likes to vibrate at. Using the word likes is anthropomorphization or whatever, pretending it likes something, right? Like human qualities. So, all things have a specific natural frequency that they vibrate at. So you saw pendulums previously, longer pendulums have a lower frequency. Kids on a swing, I don't know if you've been to Wheeler's Pancake House. There's a swing set where there's a really long, short one, a bigger one, and a longer one. It's almost like, kid and mama and papa, like in the, fables or whatever, right? Or like actually like A&W burgers, right? Mama burger and the papa burger reminds me of. Anyways, I'm off track. Wide versus narrow containers of water. I'll be showing a video about that shortly, but things just have natural frequencies. So let me jump ahead actually and show that. Find it quick here. The fumbling I'm talking about. So the wide versus narrow water in a pan. I guess I'll show this one right now. Right, we're looking at natural frequencies of the way water sloshes back and forth based on the width of the container. So you see that frequency there, and then that frequency there that it really gets going at. Higher frequency for that one. And this one here is the frequency of the really wide container. Much lower frequency. We can compare to that. Okay, so it's just natural frequencies that things vibrate at nicely or whatever. Okay, and then transitioning over to resonance. Resonance is the transfer and build up. So there's three parts to this: transfer and build up of energy. So vibration energy going from one object into another. Okay, so transfer and build up of vibration energy from one object vibrating to another. So, and the third point is that only happens if they have the same natural frequency. Okay, so that's your three parts to describing resonance. So each time you could sort of pick out the object that's vibrating, that energy is transferring to another vibrating object, and that it only happens if they have the same natural frequency. A little bit more of a textbook definition. It says the natural frequency is the frequency at which an energy of a wave is most efficiently absorbed and converted into mechanical energy. So that's less of a word about liking or tending to and so on, right? It's the frequency that it most efficiently absorbs and converts energy into mechanical energy from a wave into mechanical energy. All right, so weird, interesting demo or video for us here. Let's see if I can get that one going. So it's from Mythbusters episode a while back. There we go. Too good. So you'll notice, of course, on helium, he's talking with a high voice, and then he takes deep breaths, and he has his normal voice back because he has regular air in his lungs, going through his vocal cords, and then takes the sulfur hexafluoride in, and and gets the low pitch, right? So there's a pseudoscience explanation or an incomplete science explanation going on there. Their explanation was just about, he says the speed of sound in helium is faster, so it makes my voice sound higher. You're like, well, where's the connection between, like, what's the actual mechanics or physics of that higher speed of sound leading to a higher pitch sound. There's no real explanation there. It just sounds good. It's what everybody tends to say. The actual explanation is to do with how sound is made by your vocal cords, by your voice. And there's vocal cords. It's actually just two flaps of skin on either side, but they call it vocal cords. And sort of the frequency that they vibrate at, right? And so we can do a way more thorough job explaining why, if we consider that your sounds are made, voice sounds are made by vibration in your vocal cords. And then we're going to look at here a little, well, I may as well say here, the natural frequency of the vocal cords is just, it's different in different densities of gases. And so the frequency, obviously I'm leaping ahead to the connection between frequency and pitch that you hear. Higher frequency, higher pitch, but it's pretty obvious, but we'll see it again later on, okay? But here is some vibrations happening. And I'll just turn the sound down and narrate here. So basically I'm going to show here the frequency that a pendulum goes back and forth at in air. So think of this as, I guess this would be the helium version, the faster frequency, higher pitch. And then if normal air is more dense, like water is more dense, it's a much slower frequency. Plus, it slows down quicker, the energy dissipates quicker, but that's not what we're talking about. So just that actual frequency that it goes back and forth at is a lot slower than the case with air, right? High frequency, high pitch sound, and low frequency, lower pitch sound. So this could be the sulfur hexafluoride, and you know, as the lower one if you're considering that comparison. And it happens with each kind of vibration as well. So here's just the mass on a spring bouncing up and down in air. And then when I move it into the water, not as big of a change with this one, but that's bouncing up and down in the water. And so if we were to carefully measure, we'd probably find it's a slower frequency as well. All right, so that is a much more thorough and specific description, right? In a less dense gas like helium, vocal cords vibrate more easily, and so they vibrate at a higher natural frequency, and your voice sounds higher than normal. In a more dense gas like sulfur hexafluoride, they're going to vibrate at a lower natural frequency, and your voice is going to sound lower pitch than normal. Okay? The funny clip from Big Bang Theory. Let's see, that one's not available anymore. I probably I can get away with showing my video or not. I want to get what do you call it? Dinged with a copyright thing. What was the name of this one? Sulfur. I'll just type in sulfur. On here. Video temp. I need to look in actual videos. Here we go. You just end up seeing some things like this in popular culture, even.
Before I come in, you should know I have gas.
For the record, not your worst opening line.
Check it out. It's the gas I use in my free electron laser to support high voltages, but it also has an interesting secondary use. Here, breathe this in.
But before I do it, if you're a cop, you have to tell me, right?
Just try it. What's it supposed to? Oh my God, this is so. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. Leonard, I am your father.
Anyways, so obviously they have the sulfur hexafluoride going there as well, and it's making their vocal cords vibrate at a lower natural frequency, making their voices sound lower. All right, so those were just about natural frequencies. So we're going to get into resonance as well. Was there any just about natural frequencies? Even guitar strings, you know, the natural frequency based on the tension. And then the resonance could be, I'm not doing this one as a video, but even the feedback you get would be resonance. And just seeing if there's any of the other ones that are just about natural frequencies. They're all going to be resonance now. Okay, good. So this is tuning forks, 2 tuning forks. All right, hopefully you can hear this good in the video. These 2 tuning forks have the same frequency. Sound that, and you'll notice something already what's happening there. Get this one going. Hopefully you heard that that one was still ringing. Ringing actually on its own. It got ringing because of resonance. So there was a vibration here, and then this thing efficiently converts energy from a wave, vibration of a wave, into mechanical oscillations, and so energy transfers from one to the other. There's all 3 things. Vibration 1, we have vibration 2 at the same natural frequency, and energy transferring. Couldn't hear that quite well enough. Show something else shortly as well. Try this way. That one didn't transfer as well. Closer to get it. Like, never mind. Hopefully you can hear that well. Pretty obvious, as it turns out. I can tell. That energy is transferring. Let's hold the ping pong ball here with this. You actually see the ping pong ball getting hit by the vibrations of the tuning fork. The other thing is I can add some weight to one of these, and it'll make the frequency different. So that makes the frequency lower. So now you don't have them at the same frequency. One of those 3 things is missing, and so resonance isn't going to happen. Probably here, a different frequency, and let's see if the vibration is transferred. Not bouncing back and forth anymore. It was quiet. Move this bigger, I guess, for you. All right. Last second I moved it bigger, but I'll do that next time. Let's keep going. So we got long and short pairs of pendulums. Don't think I can make this one bigger because it's a short. We have 2 long pendulums and 2 short pendulums. Watch what happens when I swing one of the long ones. Analyze here, you've got 1 vibration at a very specific frequency. We have another thing that likes to vibrate at the same frequency because they're the same length pendulum. So this pendulum would most efficiently convert energy of a vibration into vibrating itself, or energy from a wave, if you will, at that particular frequency as well, and so on. So you see that it's getting all that energy. Very long one, getting the energy, resonating. I can explain why that happens. Little ones don't. So the little ones don't because they vibrate at a different frequency, right? They convert more efficiently at a different frequency. And what about when I swing a little pendulum? There's also something sort of weird happening going on there, if you notice. I'll talk about it in the video lesson. So notice the energy transfers and then it cancels out from the other one, and they kind of energy kind of bounces back and forth, and so they're kind of pushing and pulling on each other, and resonance happening between like frequency vibrations. So resonance, of course, there. Let's go this one next here. So wine glass and here. Right, this one's on a party trick at weddings or whatever. That's what we're talking about in the course. So that familiar sound you can make, I can relate to this course because that squeaky sound is the key to making this happen. And what's happening is I'm actually just putting vibrations into the system at a certain frequency. The speed that I go at for the squeaky grab and release kind of contribution of vibrations to the system, I need to have that at the same frequency that the glass naturally vibrates at. and that actually changes that frequency that it vibrates at. Changes depending on how much water is in the glass. So you find the speed that you go at in order to have the make and break contacts be at the right frequency, so that resonance happens and energy builds up and it makes a nice sound. So analyzing here, the vibration source, vibration number one, if you will, is the finger making and breaking on the glass. And then we have an object, the glass itself. The edge of the glass actually vibrates in and out and all the way around in like a three-dimensional kind of thing, but just picture it vibrating there. That's the second thing, right? That picks up vibration. So energy transfers from this vibration to the vibration of the glass. And so that's resonance going on your three parts. Yeah. And so if you move your finger at the right speed, you're going to create the right source vibration that has the same natural frequency as the glass likes to vibrate at when it has that certain water level. And so when it's full of water, it gets to a lower and lower frequency because the glass has a harder time going back and forth. It changes the natural frequency of the glass. That's cool. And what do I have next here? The resonance one between two wine glasses, kind of neat. I don't have two wine glasses here, so go to my files for that one, I guess. So two wine glasses. Wine glasses. There we go. So no thanks. All right. So this is just showing resonance kind of in a way too, right? These two wine glasses. They're not touching each other, but the vibrations are going through the air. This glass ends up vibrating as well. The energy from this vibration transfers that vibration because they have the same amount of wine. If I was doing this video, I would have shown it with a different amount of wine, right? So you see the matchsticks vibrating a little bit because the glass is vibrating, picking up that resonance. And if we added wine to this one, then the matchsticks wouldn't end up absorbing that vibration because they'd be at a different natural frequency, right? So they'd just be staying still. If you added wine, that would sort of add to the quality of the video. I just have to get a second wine glass and make one, I guess. So we got that. The long neck bottle. All right, here's some more for you. This one's a little harder to picture where the resonance is coming from. So the source vibration is what I'm saying. It's a little harder to picture what the source vibration is. Try to explain. We've got an air column, which we'll learn more about and use later on. So the air column in here is actually what's vibrating. We'll talk about that soon in the course. So the lower this Pepsi bottle water level is, different sounds get made. And so why that is when you're blowing over the top of this edge, you're creating little vortices. The vortices are just spinning in the fluid, and the spinning kind of hits and pulls and hits and pulls and hits and pulls. Kind of like when you put a paddle through water, you see those little spinny vortices. That's happening in a microscopic scale in the air. And they push and pull on the air column. And the pushes and pulls happen at a bunch of different frequencies. And so whichever frequency resonates with the air column is the one you end up hearing because it absorbs energy, builds up energy, all those aspects of what we know as resonance. Push and pull on the air column. And so there's all sorts of vibrations there. And the ones that match the natural frequency of the air column itself resonate and get amplified. And so I will also show over here the classic. In a class, sometimes I get people to close their eyes and tell me when the bottle is almost full. Skip ahead slightly here because I decided to go with a container to fill. So basically, you know the sound when you're filling a water bottle and it gets higher and higher pitch, right? That relates to this. There's a bunch of different frequencies of sound, or frequencies being made by the vibrations of water pouring in. The ones that match the frequency that the air column likes to vibrate at, or most efficiently converts energy from a wave into a vibration, right? Those are the ones you hear.
Air frequency.
So here we go.
Trying to do it here really loud though.
So if you had your eyes closed, you'd be able to like tell me when to stop. It's almost at the top, clearly. Yeah.
There we go. So that frequency is really familiar, and you're just heard it
so you hear that all the time, and so you just know that the thing's almost full when you're at that higher pitch. Plates on a shelf. The discussion would be like if you have different plates and bowls and cups on a shelf, and a dump truck's driving by. Sometimes a particular plate or a particular pot in a on the counter or whatever will vibrate because its frequency matches that vibration frequency that you might not even have noticed. If maybe you live near a train track or something like that, and the particular vibration frequency might match a particular object, and it vibrates to the point where you either notice it or it vibrates off a shelf or whatever. Friends of mine just went to a Big Sugar concert, and another friend of mine that I work with actually used to work at a bar in university, and there was a person whose job was just to go around pushing the bottles of on the shelf, pushing them back on, because as Big Sugar was playing, it's such an incredibly loud show that they put on. The vibrations would obviously transfer to the objects on the shelf, and they'd actually jiggle off the shelf and break, and they're expensive bottles. So someone's job literally was just pushing all the bottles back on the shelf. Thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's resonance going on, right? The vibration, the vibration energy in the air from the band transferring. And I would guess if I were to ask more details, or I saw it in more detail at the time, there'd be certain bottles that would tend to fall off the shelf quicker than others, I bet. Maybe the full ones didn't, or maybe the full ones did, and you wouldn't think, but it's just because they are resonating with a particular frequency, right? So the natural frequency of a bottle would change depending on how much is in it. So I would suspect there'd be a certain level of fullness of bottles might connect to it. This is one of my favorite resonance videos. Here we go. Hold on. Press play. There we go. Jump ahead a little bit here. So one of these guys is the guy's son, obviously, and then the other one's like a friend, and the friend's saying like, "Okay, Dad, do the thing, show my friend." So here I'm describing how you fly through the air, and it's like, whoa, dude. And so Dad here is pushing on the water, and you'll see he's going to push with a very specific rhythm. And he actually gets out of rhythm a little bit, and then he gets back in rhythm. But the in rhythm is the whole idea of matching the natural frequency, right? So he's the source vibration. This is the thing that can vibrate at a certain frequency. If he vibrates at the correct frequency, the energy builds up, and then the little kids ride on their little surfboards on the I think they call it the volcano or something or whatever. But here we go. So he's in pretty good in sync with the frequency there. He gets out of sync here a little bit. Gets back on it. And then they go through and ride the fun with physics, right? So resonance obviously happening there as well. This is just silly, but Harry Potter. I'll go to my own. There's probably an ad. Potter theme song on wine glasses. Kind of next level. So Harry Potter fans out there. And I put it's not magic, muggles. And then what do I have here? Oh, the resonance coupling. So this, we saw this already with the short and long pendulums, but I'm going to go back to that metronome thing that we saw before. Metronome self-synchronization. And so if you watch this video long enough, I'll get it going here. But they're all just kind of at random phases. Looking for that right word from the course. And I'll just jump ahead here. You know, a lot of them are starting to march in unison. Similar, they're affecting each other's rate of vibration, right? By the little pushes and the pulls. Same as on my long pendulum and short pendulum vibrating stick there, whatever is going back and forth. That the energy kind of is affecting, of one is affecting the other. And so they all end up self-synchronizing. Eventually, there's one here that's out of sync, one there it's out of sync. They really all start to march in unison as time goes on. And there's like one that's out of sync, maybe, or any other ones. So this one here, they kept the video going till eventually it got pushed and pulled in unison as well. It's an odd thing that happens. And honestly, sometimes in science and in physics, that you might, if something weird like that's discovered, it might just seem like a neat thing at the time. Sometimes it can lead to inventions, like could have a use, right? So it's just one of those things that usually kind of gets documented and talked about, and you know, eventually maybe is used for something. Yeah, I was going to talk about cleaning a circular pool like this. If you get a good flow, get it spinning around and around, you'll find all the leaves and debris will collect in the center. And Einstein discovered that, stirring tea leaves in his teapot, all of the leaves would connect in the center, and he studied why and so on. It's called secondary flow. I can describe more about it later on if you are interested. The singing fountain, this is just a weird, crazy water dish resonance thing going on. Oh, it's going to be an ad here for this one. Let's cancel that. Go back to singing fountain. Go. So I'm going to go ahead a little bit to where he just starts doing it. But basically, a certain frequency vibration here builds up lots of vibrations in the bowl, and you get spots. And so, kind of weird. We're going to talk. How do I pause this? We're going to talk about nodes and antinodes later on too. So, but there's spots where it's vibrating a lot, and the water shoots up, and then there's spots where it's not vibrating. That's a spot where it's not vibrating, and so we'll see that later on again in the course. Talk about nodes and antinodes when we get to that. And what else? The Tibetan bowl, resonance bowl. Student brought this in right from Tibet. They had just gone on a trip. Tibet. So this is a video of Whitney was his name. And so again, it's just supposed to be calming in the culture, right? And so you hit it and then you move it around. And again, it's just the same as the wine glass, really. But I didn't include it because it's related. And bridge resonance. Let's go resonance students on a bridge. Go in this one here and so there's a certain frequency that would work for getting this going, and you can tell they're jumping up and down.
Well-timed forces create large oscillations.
So well-timed forces, in other words, frequency matching the natural frequency of the bridge, create large oscillations. The energy is building up in the system.
Well-timed forces.
And so it's an example of resonance. There's bridge resonance, and then side view of this thing.
Here students are located at the antinodes to create the second harmony.
So again, we'll talk about antinodes and nodes later on, but for now, we're just talking about, that they're jumping up and down. They're the source
the input
vibration.
forces slowly in resonance with the bridge, and the amplitude slowly builds.
Yeah. So and then you go to the next level here. And I can't believe you did this. This is insane. But testing the limits of this bridge's integrity here, they do have to jump up and down at a very specific frequency to match the natural frequency, because you're relying on resonance to get the energy to build up. And back to Tacoma Narrows here. Resonance one. Tacoma Narrows. So Tacoma Narrows is a really common example to see and learn about in physics classes. And it's talked about as if it's resonance. There's debates about it, but I'll play it. This is the original video from the classic textbooks. Back in the day, it was like on a film reel or whatever. I remember when I was in high school. Oh, apparently that one's not working for video quality here. So let's go with the newer one from I have. Maybe it won't. Here we go. So this is a bridge. It was built down in the States in the Tacoma Narrows, wherever the heck that is, and wind was blowing at a very steady rate that day. It wasn't big gusts of wind. If it was big gusts of wind at a certain frequency, then you'd say, okay, yeah, it's resonance, because pushing and pulling the bridge at a certain frequency. I still think there's a resonance aspect to this. Basically, eventually, obviously the bridge can't handle this much vibration. And eventually the thing breaks apart. There's a car here. There's a video of professor out there walking along the bridge. He went to like save a dog or something. Is it here? See him walking in the center, coming up. I missed the part where he's walking. But when he was walking in the center. There he is there, walking along the center where it wasn't vibrating as much. Not very long after that, boom, the whole thing collapsed. And they actually called the bridge Galloping Gertie, because ever since it was built, when they were driving, they'd feel it swaying. And then finally this day, not long after, like 3 months or something after they finished building it, the thing whole collapsed. And so it's described as resonance. I have described it in terms of like, if there was a repetitive structure, and the same as blowing over the long neck bottle, if all those little vorticey vibrations happen to have the right vibration, then it could build up in the bridge. See the structures here. Those maybe could have been the cause, where it's all those little vibrations building up energy in the system, in which case resonance is a very logical way to describe it. There's a person that is quite knowledgeable as well, though, that indicates that it's not resonance. And so I'll play this one as well. It's neat. I do think
the Tacoma Narrows Bridge collapse in 1940. If not, it's all over the internet. And while I've heard that in Seattle they just call it bad bridge building, most teachers in physics textbooks have probably told you that the bridge collapsed because of resonance with the wind. But they're wrong. That's because a resonance is a vibration driven by a source oscillating at a similar frequency.
So not totally wrong, I don't think, because it could have been resonance in those structures, right? The vibration in those structures caused by the wind. And so the source vibration would be the pushing and pulling from the vortices from the wind blowing past the structures. And then obviously the bridge is the other vibration that picks up energy from that, builds up in the system, eventually collapses, right? But there is there's another phenomenon name, and so I think that's just sort of a distinction between, but they're both basically still resonance, I would say, but I'll let it play.
Like how a swing at the park goes higher and higher as you push it, or the electrons in an antenna move in tandem with the electromagnetic waves of a radio signal, or how a guitar string vibrates or wine glass shatters if you sing at just the right pitch. And that's not what happened at the Tacoma Narrows, because people at the bridge that day measured the wind speed as being fairly constant, or not oscillating. So there was no forced resonance. It's also tempting to think that the bridge collapsed because of vortex shedding, a cool-looking fluid process where vortices take turns sloughing off the edge of an object. But that's
So see how they're sloughing off one after the other and it creates vibrations? He's saying that's not what caused it. I think it's still debatable, but
not right either. What did cause the bridge to collapse is a phenomenon called aeroelastic flutter, the same thing that causes a strip of paper or a blade of grass to vibrate if you hold it tight and close straight at the edge. Basically, with enough wind speed, the bridge started to twist a little bit, but then gravity and tension in the bridge caused it to twist back down, except too far. So now the wind could push it in the opposite direction, causing it to twist more violently, and so on and so forth until, well, the bridge fluttered itself into destruction. And aeroelastic flutter isn't just limited to bridges. It can cause airplane wings to hum annoyingly, or vibrate so vigorously as to disintegrate. But don't worry, the last time this happened on a commercial airplane was in the early 1960s. You should probably be more concerned with the haunted swing set in Fremont, Argentina, that can swing on its own for days. Oh wait, no, that's just aeroelastic flutter. Sorry, ghosts. Physics just blew you away.
so cute, right? And another one. I have so many things for this. So let's go. Yeah, resonance breaking glass, first of all. Glass. Right. Glass, old school movie. Works. Kodak. All right, well, it's not the end of the world. That one's really old. We're going to go to the Mythbusters one. I'm going to skip ahead to 1510 when it actually works. Go on and on trying to make it happen. Way ahead to 1510, sorry.
I don't know if I can do it. Not surprisingly, I don't think I can do it. Show's over for Adam, but Jamie Vendera's back for his encore.
Volume down a little, it might be so annoying. So the source vibrations is vocal cords. It travels through the air as a wave. It had to be at a very specific frequency to make that happen, of course. The natural frequency of the glass. So in the video, you'll see him tapping the glass, hearing the sound, trying to tune his voice to the sound, and so on. Yeah, so it's resonance. And then, of course, people see this and try and mimic it.
Yeah.
So this glass is a different shape, has a different natural frequency. Check out the frequency that he identified it vibrates at.
Vertobulary glass trick.
Okay. So eventually here. Oh, there we go. It is cool. So they do a slow motion of that and so on, but I think there's links for it there if you want to see more of it. And like I said, I have lots. There's a neat episode of from MacGyver back in the day. Around I think it's because I didn't find before. I was in the one folder, that's why. Ground resonance. Side view. Helicopter ground resonance. What I want. There we go. So this is opening credits from an episode of MacGyver in 1986. So helicopter comes in, lands in the building, drops off MacGyver, and then watch what happens. Add a bit here. So the helicopter takes off with the door dangling, right? And they left it in because, old days film was expensive and so on. But what was happening was, if you notice, the helicopter's kind of shaking there. The helicopter pilot is well trained and knows that if he doesn't take off right away, the helicopter will end up like disintegrating, like vibrating out of control and breaking. And because it was going on into what's called catastrophic ground resonance, energy was building up in the system. The source is the air movement hitting the propellers hitting the air and then bouncing off the ground. It's happening at a certain frequency, so that's sort of the vibration. The helicopter itself is picking up that vibration, so the energy is transferring to it. So there's all three parts of resonance. But yeah, it takes off in order to not have the helicopter disintegrate. Helicopter ground resonance, actual like military test, see the vibration. What happens if you don't take off? Jump ahead here for you. Whole helicopter is just getting torn apart and disintegrating because it didn't take off. Yeah, crazy. So obviously, it probably takes a little while to happen, but I don't think they want to take a chance and see how long it takes or whatever. That's a silly one. We don't need that. Oh, this one's cool. So this is my daughter's violin teacher. She was showing during a lesson how you can tell if the strings are in tune and so on, and it's third finger resonance.
You want me to talk too?
Yeah, sure.
So I interrupted the lesson and asked her to do a physics video.
Play your D in tune. It will ring. As the D string next to it will ring in sympathy.
So if you're putting your finger in the right spot on the neck for it to play a D note, then the violin rings nicely because the D string picks up that vibration, resonates with it.
Play that again. Play out of tune. Or
So see how the sound stops instantly in those times.
as the D string next to it will ring in sympathy. I'll do that again. Play out of tune.
It's just dead. It stops right away.
Like it hit a brick wall.
So that was cool. Resonance in molecules in a microwave, right? The microwaves cause the water molecules and food molecules, sometimes molecules of the handles of a coffee cup, if you ever have that happen. Some coffee cups aren't as microwave safe as others. The handle gets hotter than the liquid inside. We have a couple at my house that we don't use in the microwave because of that. But yeah, it's actually just resonance, right? The vibration, the microwave radiation is at a certain frequency, and the molecules that have the same natural frequency end up vibrating and picking up energy. So they heat up, because that's what heat is, of course, right? And then finally, this last one here is the one I talked about piezoelectric crystals. I have that video open somewhere, maybe still. I don't know. Yeah, let's just open it up again and probably wait for an ad here. Yeah.
That grimy film on your teeth.
Dr. G?
It's actually the buildup of plaque bacteria, which can cause cavities.
Unlike here we go.
Toothpaste, Crest Grow Health antibacterial fluoride protects against cavities, gingivitis, and sensitivity. Crest.
Sorry,
How do I clean
I'm
it
having
out?
trouble now.
There's time.
Right.
Perhaps eyebrows.
I have way too many things open.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be
Oh
tied.
no.
This video is sponsored by
I can't even find it.
In the world of watch enthusiasts, there can be
All right, I think I've got it sorted out. Maybe. In here. There we go. There we go.
real revolution came with the discovery of piezoelectricity. I explained the piezoelectric effect in my last video and why it arises in certain crystals. A quick summary here: if you take a crystal of quartz and you cut it in just the right way and then deform the crystal by hitting it, for example, then you'll measure a voltage across the crystal. And conversely, if you apply a voltage across the crystal, then the crystal will deform. So if you look inside a digital watch or an analog watch that's battery powered or back of a battery powered wall clock, you will find this component. And if you take off the protective outer case, there it is, a crystal of quartz, of course, in the shape of a tuning fork.
So the rest of the video, he led up to this, but that's in the shape of a tuning fork, okay?
If you flick this crystal, it will sing like a tuning fork, except that you won't be able to hear it because the frequency is too high for our ears. But because it's piezoelectric, it doesn't just produce this inaudible sound, it also produces a detectable oscillating voltage. This is a USB oscilloscope. So what you're seeing here is the voltage detected across the probes. And I've connected the quartz tuning fork to the probes. So at the moment, there's nothing going on. But look, if I flick it, that wave pattern. So that's the voltage across the probes going up and down because the piezoelectric crystal is flexing back and forth. So the voltage it produces is going up and down. We could take a screenshot and then try and work out what the frequency is, or we can switch to frequency view where the scope is actually going to show us the frequencies. So now if I flick it, that spike appears. Just put a little dashed line at 32.7 kilohertz. And look, when I flick it, it's exactly where the spike appears. Just like a tuning fork, the vibration is short-lived.
So you can go and click the link and watch the rest of it. It's really cool. But basically the idea is you put voltage on this and makes it vibrate at a very specific speed, very specific frequency, right? And they can tune that just by shaving a little mass off the end of the tuning fork to get it to be very, very close to this 32,768 hertz. And then that gets converted into per second beats of or ticks of the second hand. So yeah, the natural frequency of that little tuning fork in crystal battery watches produce resonance. All right, so hopefully all that makes sense. Lots of examples that are kind of weird and so on, but I hope you find it interesting. I certainly do. All right, let me find how to turn this thing off.